Being a full-time mom is not an easy job. I am not a full-time mom, but those of you who are, I hear you. I can connect with you because a lot of my clients are going through this same process. They're either a full time corporate, they're trying to get out of their full time job, or they're actually a full time mom. It may not feel like a full time job, but it is a full time job, if not worse. So today I have a special guest who's coming to the show today to share with us her experience of being a full time mom and growing a full time coaching business. You'll hear a lot of Stefanie's stories about the journey that she had traveled, quitting her full-time corporate work and coming home to raise two Viking boys and starting her business and living the lifestyle that she wanted to have. I think one of the most important message that I took away from Stefanie's story is that you really have to decide the lifestyles that you wanted to live. Being working in the corporate environment and having a full-time coaching business, it's not impossible. It can be a lifestyle, or perhaps you're someone who really resonated with the full-time coaching business and you want to be a full-time coach, so you devoted all your time working on that business. But at the end of the day, is that the lifestyle that you wanted to live? And if so, how much are you willing to give up from your family time? And how much are you being able to devote your energy after you run through the marketing, you run through all these virtual meetings or going to networking from one place to another? How much sacrifice are you giving so that you can have a full-time coaching business? I can't wait to introduce you to Stefanie's story. Let's get into it. Well, hello and welcome. Welcome back to the show. Today we have a real treat for everyone. I have Stefanie Fernandes, a certified parent coach and a true magician when it comes to transforming emotional triggers. And she's got a certification from the J Institute of Parenting, and she's also a pro in rapid transformation therapy, and also Brainworking rescue therapy. Stefanie is on a mission, you all. She is a cycle breaker, as she would call it on her website, who is passionate about giving moms, whether they are newbie or seasoned pro, the tools that they need to live a healthier well-being and also a deeper connection with their kiddo. So please join me with the warm welcome, Stefanie Fernandes. Hi,
Oh,
Stefanie.
hi. Thank you so much for this lovely welcome.
I tell us where you're calling from, because we were just having a conversation earlier that you're not here in the U.S. Where are you exactly?
No, I'm based in Denmark and we live here. I live here since 8 years and raise here two kids with my Portuguese husband. And we raise so-called third culture kids. So we are raising them in a culture that is not mine and that is not my husband's either. Yeah.
That's very interesting. It sounds like all of you are learning something new, learning a new culture, learning a new environment.
You can say that. You can say that.
That really sounds like an adventure.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself and also your business.
So as you very rightly said, I'm a parent coach and I have my coaching practice and my therapy practice since 2 years now. Yes, 2 years. And I came from the corporate world, mostly health consulting. And since I'm a mom, things just, and I think everyone can relate to that who is a mom and feels like the 9 to 5 just somehow doesn't fit anymore in my life. Kids always need something. And I had I felt a lot of pressure of performing and delivering and really just being focused on work when I knew that one of my kids is sick at home Or how do I combine the school theater presentation with all my deliverables and all my milestones that I need to meet at work? So I decided that was a process, and I decided to finish with corporate jobs and just start my own business. And I opened my practice, and I'm so happy I did, because now I finally have the chance to build something around the life that works for my family. So
Mm.
it's not anymore the focus of my day to day is not my business, even though it works really well and I have enough clients and they are the most perfect clients, because I really feel so connected to them. But I also can now fully live the life of a mom, and I love it. Like, I simply love to pick them up a bit earlier every day. I love to be able to say, let's just take a day off and we go to the theme park. That's nice. And that was very important for me, just to have because I also know there's so little for such a short time.
Mhm.
In no time at all, they don't want to spend time with me anymore. But then I have so much time to work. Like, I can do all the over hours in 10 years, and I'm fine with that. So for now, it's perfect the way it is.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of, the reason why you started this coaching business is because a lot of it has to do around the lifestyle that you were living. I mean, the corporate, we all know it's a 9 to 5. You go in, you clock out, and basically you are at the mercy of someone else's time, and you're making money for someone else. So if that your boss said, well, you can't leave yet, you're gonna have to stay for another 5 minutes, you basically are stuck if you want that paycheck. And so what I'm hearing is, going into business was a lifestyle that you chose. And I think this is a great point, because a lot of people don't realize, why they started a business. It's really not for the money, but rather it's a lifestyle that we dream of. And we're talking here, and it almost sounds like, oh yeah, I just woke up one day and I just started my business. How easy was it for you? And I think you also touch on this a little bit on your website too, that you mentioned that you're introvert.
Yes, I am. And to be honest, it was a very difficult decision to quit my job.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fear. What if it's not working? Because I also liked my corporate job. It was not that I wanted to flee from it. I finally found something. I found a team that I liked to work with. The topic was very interesting. I learned so much, and I felt I was really needed there, which is for me personally very important. I get a lot of purpose out of that. So it was not an easy decision, and it was not one day to the other I decide head over heels, let's just quit this and do something completely different, because that's what it is. It's my third career, actually. So I started off as a nurse, then I went into health consulting, and now I'm doing this coaching business. And there was a lot of conversation with my husband. How are we going to make this work? What if it doesn't take off? How much time do we give this business idea? How do I know if it's successful or not? Because as you said, money is not the main driver. The main driver for quitting my 9 to 5 was not to make more money.
Yeah.
It was to have more purpose, to have more time for the family, but also doing something that really fulfills me truly.
Yeah.
And until that point, until I really started it, I didn't know what professional fulfillment means. And now I feel it. Now I live it every day. And for me, this is more important than any money in the world.
Yeah.
I had jobs where I made so much money that I didn't have time to spend it. Why do I make all that money? I didn't even have time to go on holidays. And if I was on holidays, I had to work, because things are just not organized in a way that you really calm down and shut down your phone. And that was very important for me. And we had a lot of conversations, and there were some sleepless nights, and ultimately I just felt it. I think I just felt it deep inside of me. And even though I tried in the beginning to ignore it and do it as a side hustle,
Mhm.
that ultimately almost burned me out, because I was working with parents in the evening, mostly on weekends. That just took away from the time with my kids. And I just knew well, this is not going to work like this. So one thing has to go. And so that was the 9 to 5 job.
Mm, mhm. I think it's so important to make that choice and make that decision of, okay, so I obviously cannot handle both. Then what do I want to let go of so I can really stay focused on just pursuing one? And I think, there's a lot of mom, whether they're single or married, I think, it's always nice. And this is something I tell all my students is that there's nothing wrong with following your passion, but there's also, you also want to keep your profit in mind, right? So it would be nice that your profit is paying off your passion, and so that you're actually making money so that you can supplement and living the true dream life that you've been wanting to have with this passion that you have. And so I love everything that you share. It's so real, right? It's a real conversation with your spouse, with your significant other, just to sit down and really decide, how do I want my business to look like within the next couple of years? And it takes some time for the
Yes.
business to kick off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much of starting your business and working with parents, and obviously I'm assuming that you also work with clients from basically all over the world, and your business is online. So
Mhm.
how do you kind of juggle between your mom's life, your full-time moms, and the full-time business that you're trying to run?
A lot of planning. So I always need to be on top of my calendar, and I have to block out times where I feel it's getting too much, because a lot of my clients, they have the link to my calendar, and then they just book sessions as they need it, and that easily can be overwhelming. I have core business hours, but even within those core business hours, I have to block off time for myself. I realized that I need also time to recharge my batteries during the day. I'm very used to being in the hamster wheel, and I'm good at it, but at some point it's not fun anymore. But how do you stop it once you're there? So I'm very conscious about blocking off time in advance in my calendar. And the most important is that my husband knows when I have longer meetings, so he picks up the kids. We do this very regularly. So I bring the kids or he brings them, I pick them up, like we share. It's not 50-50. That is not fairness in our family.
Mhm.
But if it feels one is doing more and one cannot really, deliver at work and do what they want, then it's like we need a conversation. Like, I've been staying home with the kids more often in the recent weeks. When they were sick, can you please, next time they're sick, stay home? And that's what we do. But it's more of a open conversation that really
Mhm.
needs to happen. We have shared calendars, so he knows and I know when whatever happens. I try my best to keep my work in the core hours, but I also work with a lot of American clients, so I work a lot of evenings because that's their lunch, late afternoon time there.
Yeah.
And that just means I need to take the next morning off. And I take the next morning off without any guilt and without feeling like, oh, I need to go online and, post and do marketing and check on my clients. I'm very conscious of carving out that time for myself, but a lot of planning and to know what is feasible.
Mhm.
Need to just be real also with myself of what I can deliver. I can promise a lot, but that is not helpful if I cannot deliver in the end. Yeah.
Mhm. I love everything that you have just shared, and I think a lot of my audience will resonate because their majority of them are also introverted. So introverts, I don't know if you noticed, but introverts loved planning. Like
Yes.
we need out a long time. I can be at networking event, I can be doing this virtually, I can meet with people, but when it comes to like a long time to recharge, to revitalize, to re-energize. Those are like a sacred moment, sacred time, and nobody comes into the sacred time.
Yes.
And
One
and
more.
what what you have just shared is so important also for a lot of parents. What I picked up was you have a shared calendar, so both you and your husband are on that same page, same calendar. You know exactly how much time he has, and he knows what you're up to. So I think that open communication really helps to, like, not only to strengthen your relationship with your husband, but also strengthen your relationship with your clients, with your business. So I love that point that you just shared.
Mhm. It's so important for me that I know what's going to happen. Maybe that is the introverted side of me that feels like I don't easily feel overwhelmed because I know what's going to happen. And if I just let it flow, which sometimes is nice, but it can just become too much and too overwhelming. So I feel if you know that the why in your business, like I want to spend time with my kids and I want to be available for them,
Mhm.
then this is just what I need to plan in. That's just it. So for me, there is no available time slot between my 3 p.m. and my 8 p.m. That's just family time. It's a big chunk of the day, I understand. But if we start trying to make things work, and I think the worst trap is to have double bookings, to try to do two things at the same time, cooking dinner, being with the kids, and then listening to a training or attending a webinar or having a client. And then I just quickly need to do something else. And that
Mhm.
just adds so much stress into our lives. So I'm really trying not to do that.
Mm, mm. I think this is a great message for my audience. A lot of them are like busy mom, and so sometimes they come to the webinar and they're like, "Oh, Michelle, I'm still in the kitchen doing stuff." So what you share is like right on the point.
Yeah.
Great job, Stephanie. This is a hint to all of you who's doing other things, getting distracted. Now would be the moment to drop everything and come back and listen to the podcast, because Stephanie got a really important message to share with you all. I'm curious, how did you? Because I think a lot of my audience, mom, they find themselves being stressed out right now, is because they're still trying to figure out what do they want to do in their coaching business. And
Mhm.
how did you land on this niche of parenting? Like, what inspired you?
Yeah. I always knew I wanted to work with parents. But to be honest, in the beginning, I was so worried to niche down because I was afraid I would leave out other people.
Mhm.
And that is that fear of that you have in the beginning because you simply don't know any better. The bigger the pool of people, the more clients I will have. So that's why I need to be really wide. But that just backfired. It didn't work. So the more I niched down, the more I narrowed my message. This is who I help. If this is you, I only talk to you in my messaging, then you're the right fit for my program, for example. But it was also a process. Like it took, I think, half a year until I got really clear on it. And I'm happy that I didn't stress out too much about it.
Mhm.
It just developed. Like I had clients that were not in my niche, but that was fine. I learned something with them. They had amazing results. And some of them are still friends even. So whatever happens, and I truly believe that whoever finds you is a signpost for the future. And I realized I am not I am not so keen on working with single, very very young single women.
Mhm.
It was fine to have a few as clients, but I really felt that's not quite it. And then I had a few moms, and then I felt like that's really it. Like you feel it. You feel when you're drawn to something. And I feel a lot of us, unfortunately, are a bit blinded and we don't trust our intuition enough. We feel like can this really be like it? Is it that simple? Kind of overcomplicate things. But yes, it can be that simple. So if you feel comfortable, the client feels comfortable, and you deliver just so much better what you want them to learn. The transformation for them is just so much better when you are totally in it and when you're completely aligned. And it was a process. Yeah, and it's that build your know, like, and trust. And
Mhm.
that you can only do if you have a niche.
Mm.
Not possible because you're not everyone's person.
Yeah. As you're talking, as you're describing this, what I have in mind is, I remember one incident where I was in a networking event and I was talking to a group of people. And I remember there's friends who came over and we were just talking, having conversation. And suddenly I turned around, I wasn't talking to you. I was like, I wasn't talking to you. You butt into my conversation here. And I think that's the image that's coming up for me, and I'm hoping that a lot of my students will also take it away, is that sometimes it's just you're in that conversation, you're in the zone, you're talking to someone, and you're so within that flow, you're following your intuition, everything just flow really nice, and suddenly here's another person coming in butting into your conversation. You're going to turn around and say, I'm sorry, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah.
Right? So essentially that's what niche is. So tell us about your coaching process. Like, how do you work with parents? Like, what's your process?
So a lot of parents contact me and say, my child is having difficulties with anger, for example, and I need them to change. I need them to stop this behavior. And my approach is very parent centric. So that means we never, and in my work, we never look at the behavior of the child. We always first look at the behavior of the mom. And what is the mom's reaction? How is her anger response? Why is it so difficult for her to accept certain emotions or behaviors of her child? What is triggering her really? Because it's usually not the child, it's some old memory, some old response, some belief that is almost not conscious anymore. And so we do this parent-centric coaching. We always look at what's going on for you. How do you feel? And there's a lot of emotion coaching as well, because a lot of us didn't grow up knowing how to name our emotions, understanding what's actually going on inside of us when we feel unsettled and triggered. We kind of feel it's an emergency and I just need everyone to stop and shut up. So what I help them is to name their emotions, to realize what's happening for them, to become aware of what are the stories that they tell themselves. And this is where rapid transformational therapies comes really handy. I combine coaching and RTT in my coaching practice, because we kind of walk through life not really being aware of the stories we tell ourselves subconsciously and where our emotions are actually coming from. And so they become aware that their own anger is just a protection to not feel something, not feel the sadness or the disappointment, not feeling heard or seen, giving everything up for everyone. And then they're not even thankful and grateful, like we're talking 4-year-old children who just have no concept and want more and more and more from mommy. But if mommy is not able to put boundaries, but also to communicate in a empathetic way, look, mommy's tired today. I really had a tough day. Can we just snuggle here and we read a book instead of playing hide and seek? Because I'm just tired. That's difficult. The first response is often, I don't want to play, so leave me alone. And that child learns that. So the anger that the child feels and responds with is usually mirroring the mom. So we go really deep into the default patterns of parents and understanding where they're coming from with a lot of compassion and a lot of self-acceptance, because once you understand where all this is coming from, it's also difficult to handle. So we need a lot of self-love, we as parents. We can be really hard with ourselves, and the guilt can eat us up if we haven't showed up the way we want. Yeah, so that's basically in a nutshell how I work.
As you're describing your process, I feel like my mom needed you when I was young.
You know what? So many people say that. Yeah.
Yeah, my mom totally needed you when I was younger, because I was always a difficult child, and my mom just has a lot of emotion, and my journey is that I'm not a quote unquote normal kid. So I went through a childhood. I had a car accident when I was 11, and going through that process, she was in and out of the hospital with me a lot. And I remember talking about this in my book too, is that I never saw her once cry.
Yeah.
And so she's always holding a lot of emotion inside. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
my mom needed you.
A lot of parents are worried to cry in front of kids because they don't want to burden the kids. They don't want to show that, there's something to be worried about. But actually, it would be so important because it would show authenticity, vulnerability, and teach them that mommy is also just a person, and it
Hmm.
has nothing to do with you as a child. It's just the situation. And as the earlier kids learn, everyone has feelings. And you know what? In 1.5 minutes, all these feelings are gone. And we can even sometimes I sit with my son and I say, let's put 90 seconds on the clock. And I promise you, you will feel better after 90 seconds. And he goes like,
Hmm.
it's not true. I'll never feel better. I'll never feel better. But he does. And so do I. But we need a reminder that yes, sometimes it's okay to cry. And it's okay to show vulnerability. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. And I think, my aha moment talking to you today is that I've learned so much from my mom, right? She's such a strong woman and resilient. And one of the things that I grew up with was the belief that I need to be strong and always being strong. So that, like you said earlier, it has imprints on your child. So how we show up is how our kids is going to. I would love to meet your boys.
Yeah, they're quite wild. They're
Yeah.
sweet, sweet and wild.
Yeah. So how do you envision your business is going to be, let's say a year or two from
Mm.
today?
It's funny because, when you start a business, everyone tells you, or business coaches tell you, you need to have a plan. So this is the manifestation. You need to know how many clients, what is your revenue going to be. The clearer and the more details you can put,
Mhm.
the easier it will be for you to work towards that. For me personally, none of this happened, but so much more happened.
Mhm.
So to be honest, I feel when I envision my business and me in my business for the future, for the next 12 months, I see a vast ocean in front of me, full of possibilities. The fact that I can sit here today with you, being able to share my story and being able to speak my truth and to not be embarrassed by what I'm saying and too critical about myself, I wouldn't have expected that just 2 years ago or 1 year ago. So that was a long journey, especially when it comes to being visible and showing my true self. And who knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months, 12 months. I think it's going to be amazing. I feel more and more drawn to working with moms who have anger issues.
Mhm.
They just need so much love, and I can relate very well with it. I was that angry mom and I was drowning in guilt and shame. Hopefully nobody knows that the sweet Stefanie, who is actually pretty kind with others, can be so explosive at home. And so I have this special bond, I feel, with moms who are very angry, and I have so much love for them and understanding that I feel it could go more in that direction, that I narrow down even more,
Mhm.
helping more moms with anger stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So what message do you have for those moms, the angry moms who's
Mm.
trying to build a business, who's trying to, putting all their time and effort so that they can create the dream life for their child, for their home. I think that's a lot of the vision that other moms, mompreneurs would have. What message do you have for them?
More is not the solution. More is not the solution. You need to slow down and really look inwards and do the inner work so that your business can thrive. Because if you are kind of tight and caught up in that hamster wheel of I have to and I need to and I should and more hours, and you constantly send your kids away because you don't have headspace for them,
Yeah.
that's a sign that you need to slow down and first look in the right direction. And that's usually inwards, because that's where the key is for a thriving business. And then you can show up with so much freedom and so much patience for you, your clients, your kids, that is really freedom. So
Mhm.
no, it's not the money and it's not the success. And unfortunately, what we define as success and what we see online in the coaching industry, it's like people travel this place, people eat in those places, people have overnights in the most amazing hotels, they drive the best cars, they have the most beautiful white homes. That's not, what's that? That's a shell, that's superficial. That is not what success is. If you achieve that, it doesn't mean that you're going to be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Love everything you share, Stephanie. You're just such an amazing person, and I can feel so much love coming from you. And I can imagine why your client keep coming back to you, because you just show so much compassion, not just to the kids, but also to all these moms who's struggling. Like
Yeah.
we don't see that on social media, right? Most people go through, and even they have kids at home, they take happy picture of their kids on the weekend, but we don't see what's behind the scene. And so it's such a great reminder to keep things simple, do it easy, and give yourself and others some compassion and less anger, less stress.
Yes. Exactly.
Can you tell us where my audience can find you?
So my website is stefaniefernandes.com, and you mostly find me on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most. On I am Stefanie Fernandes. So very easy to find.
And I will have all the links in this episode notes so that my audience can easily find you and reach out to you. And you're just such a great example of, yes, you can be a busy mom, but you can still run a successful coaching business.
Yes, and be happy.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming to the show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. Lovely.